Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Lovely to have your company. Thank you so much. And my guest, Karen Walsh, giving us a lot of encouragement, which is something that we really need as, women, having to juggle the household, having to go to work even these days. I know in the past, mostly men used to work and women used to stay home. But now it's, women have to work to earn money as well. But we were talking about resilience and how you have to find that power in you. You said that you're beautiful, you can do it. But some women, they just can't find the energy or even the hope to get out. Why is that?
I think it's many things. I think sometimes that we have been raised in environments where maybe our true worth was not really realized. Maybe we were bullied at school. Maybe people said, horrible things to us. I think that very often our ability to be resilient is something that we can be taught from the home. Mm-hmm. Not always. There's always this question, so are you born resilient or do you learn resilient?
Oh, okay. So I think you learn resilience.
Well, I think that you do. I mean, that's my sense. But what I would say, in the work I do is I always think you can learn resilience, but there might be some of them who are born with resilience. And I'm thinking about a friend of a family who had a very, very difficult situation. Actually, her brother passed away. He suicided, and it was very, very tragic. But to see this young female just really, recover was fantastic, and she hadn't learned that. So we're either born with it, or we can learn it, or both. So, but I think, if we've got a history of always feeling not good about ourselves, that we haven't got a great body image, we don't think we're intelligent. How many times do I have women telling me, oh, Karen, I could never get that job. I'm not smart enough. So already that thinking is, I'm not going to try. Yes. So I think you're right. It's about coming back to what I said earlier. It's to actually take a step back and look at what you do well. And again, I gave you the example of the piece of paper. So what would be a really great thing is for you to take a book or a piece of paper and write down all the things which are your strengths. Because very often, Louise, we don't think about the strengths. Sometimes we think about the things that we don't do well, like I'm not fast at work, or I don't run fast, or I don't think very clearly. We're good at saying what we don't do well. But I think we need to really balance it up with what do we do well. And I really like to, whenever I'm working with women, is to encourage women to think about there are so many things you do well. There are so many things that make you unique. There are so many things that make you beautiful and special. And the most important thing is that you have to learn to believe that. Because if you don't believe it, tell me who will.
Yeah, true.
And there's a great example. I'll give you one in business. So I was working with this beautiful young woman and a job came up. And I said to her, so go for the job. And she said, oh, no, I'll never get that. I said, why won't you get that? She said, I'm not smart enough. I said, how come you're not smart enough? She said, oh, no, I'll leave it to the gentleman to get. And I said, oh, no, you won't. You give that job a go. So we got her resume together and I gave her a bit of coaching and she was very unsure the day that she went for the interview. Anyway, they called her back for the second interview.
There you go.
And by that stage, she and I had done a bit more work and I was just, getting her to be stronger. And by the time she went into that interview, she absolutely nailed the interview. She got the job. And it was just fantastic because she said, I never thought I could. I said, that's the point. You need to start thinking, ladies, that you can, not you can't.
Yeah, my grandmother used to say, no such thing as can't.
I would like your grandmother. She would be my kind of girl.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember that. No such thing as
Exactly.
can't,
And the other thing I think women don't do particularly well is that generally in work, a man will go and ask for a raise. Now, boss, I'm very, very gifted and talented. I need another $20,000 of Vinaka level. And he'll get it probably, or maybe negotiate 10. She will never go and ask for more money. She will wait until the money is given to her, and then she'll be very gracious. I mean, obviously not all women are like this. I'm speaking the general here.
Yeah.
But overall, we don't ask, we wait. And I think that that's something that comes back to what I was saying. We need to start to value ourselves and put a price on the work that we do and not be prepared to take second class. In Australia, if I have Ravi sitting next to me and we've got the same qualifications, or I might indeed be better qualified, but Ravi's a male, I'm a female, on general, Ravi will get 17.3% more money than I do.
Yes.
Now, how does that work, tell me, in terms of gender equality?
No.
And, we talk about all of these historical and cultural things, I think one of the things I was going to say, and I think I mentioned it to you earlier, Louise, and I'll quickly say this. It's one thing for we women to be in organizations and to be, given great jobs, etc. But I think we also need to step up as women. I think we need to start taking responsibility for claiming our lives and for really valuing who and what we are and what we can contribute, and then going out and getting it in the nicest way possible.
Right. Oh, perfectly said, Karen. In the nicest way possible.
But meaningful way.
In a meaningful way. That's always how it should be done.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you want to get a point across, you don't want to be, saying it you have to say it in a very nice way.
Well, I always say this to women when I'm working with them. Don't get aggressive. If you're angry, don't get aggressive. You might be angry. It's at that time you do nothing. You walk away and you calm down, right? You might give, my rule is 24 hours. Because when I come back, then that's a tip, 24 hours. Generally, you'll start feeling things differently the next day. So calm down and then try and resolve it. But if you are in a meeting, for example, and I don't think enough women speak up in meetings, that's my observation. If you are in a meeting and somebody says something angry that makes you angry, don't address anger with your anger. Because anger, and I can promise you, Louise, you will lose.
True.
So we've got to get smart.
Yes.
We've got to be assertive. And we come back in the nicest way possible, firm and fair.
That is so true.
Yes.
That's excellent advice. So I'm just sorry. I know about we've spoken about resilience, but I wanted to go back quickly on domestic violence. You know how sometimes a man has probably just come back from a big drink up, and you're at home and you're really angry. You probably throw a few punches at the same time. At your man, and he's coming. Drunk. I mean, he's not been violent or anything. Do you think it's a good advice if a woman could take a different approach?
Without a doubt. It's one of the things I've been teaching for years. And with those 900 counselors, I taught them this day in, day out. And this is the basic thing. If your husband or your wife, your husband comes home on a Friday night and he's angry and he's grogged up or whatever, I think one of the key things I teach women is don't make the situation worse. Even though you might be angry and frustrated, never, ever provoke the argument, particularly if there's a pattern of abuse and you know that should you be the one who's actually provoking him, like where have you been and you've been drinking again and where's the money?
Oh, you idiot.
And once you get into that, Louise, I can tell you something, there's a one-way corridor and it's not good.
Yeah.
So what I teach with women is learn to be smart, ladies. Learn to read the situation. Even if you're angry, manage your anger. Go next door, go to your sister, go to your mom, take the kids. Don't stay there and become part of the problem. Because if you stay there and you start arguing and giving him a hard time, you become part of the problem, not the solution. And so if you are in a situation where it tends to be like that when he's been drinking or whatever, my advice is think before you say anything. Be calm. It's always about that whoever is calm wins the day.
That's so true.
And I teach one of the things in Australia and in many countries actually is that to give her a safety plan.
Okay.
And a safety plan essentially is where she has a situation where she's got a backup of maybe a suitcase. She's got 2 kids. She's got some clothing in there. She's got some money in there. She's got official documents in there. And should she have to leave quickly for the sake of her life and those of her children, she grabs a bag or goes, or she keeps the bag at somebody's house and she goes there so that there's something that she can hold on to when she needs to. Yeah. Or he, I mean, as I said earlier, domestic violence goes both ways, although it is 4-1.
It certainly does. I mean, because even if you do hassle your man, and then you will become a part of the problem, and you could even die. I mean,
well, exactly. I mean, there's 64% of, in terms of women in Fiji who's, I've got the statistics here, which is that 64% of women who have been in intimate relationships in Fiji, of that 61 have been physically assaulted, and of that 34 have been sexually abused. So those are very high statistics per capita in a small country. So I do think it is obviously about him or the perpetrator not having those behaviors, learning to treat their woman with respect and etc. But I do think it is about her learning to not provoke the situation.
Yes,
because by
for
provoking,
her own good.
well, and for the children.
And the children, obviously. But you just have to think smart.
I wanted to just also add one thing which the listeners and might actually be interested in. I use the word survivors. So in domestic violence, they often call about the victims. If you are a domestic violence situation, and I was not that long ago, very, very tragically, where he killed her, she was a victim. So there was no surviving for her. She died, and that was the end of the story. Yeah. However, if you are a woman who's in a relationship and you survive, i.e. you don't actually pass away, please Lord, I call those people survivors because they are surviving a situation that could potentially end their lives and those of their children. However, in order to continue to survive and not to become a victim, they need to do all the things that I'm talking about today, to learn the signs, learn the strategies, leave the relationship temporarily or permanently if it's an abusive relationship. And I honestly take my hat off to those women because they've survived a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
What I often find interesting is that a lot of those women go back into that relationship, which then the cycle keeps on going round and round.
Vicious cycle, I would say, Karen. On Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. Thank you a lot for your sweet company.